The Nintendo 64 may not have been the most successful console of all time, but it was arguably the best. Not only was it home to some of the most revolutionary games of all time, but it brought numerous genres into the third dimension. Okay, so Secret Squirrel over here might have done it first, but Nintendo was the first to do it right. But I digress. The point is, this is the top 10 Nintendo 64 games. One last thing though. I'm sorry it took so long. The new iMovie sucks, and my video couldn't be uploaded, so I decided to ditch this lousy excuse for editing software, start a whole nother project, and try to get it uploaded by Easter. But I digress again. Enough beating around the bush, let's just start this list. Mario Party 2. This game was so amazing. In fact, it was originally going to be on my top 10 local multiplayer games list. And you would have gotten to see it if the new iMovie wasn't a worthless piece of Pathy, calm yourself. If there's one major flaw that this game has, it's that it didn't change much from the original rather than just the minigames. The stages are pretty similar, Bowser's as annoying as ever, and I still break controllers during some of the games. You could also win quite a few minigames by doing absolutely nothing. Yep, that just happened. Heck, you can even do it now, 8 games later. But why am I talking about the flaws already? This is a top 10 best list. So what makes the classic Mario Party game so fun, you ask? The minigames, of course. I would go over all of them, but I don't have time for that. I will say though that my favorite is Hexagon Heat. You may be wondering, why is this one on the list rather than the first or third game? That's because I haven't played them since I was like 11. You know, it's kinda sad I've only played the first 3. I'm gonna give the new one a chance. Ooh, never mind. Kirby, the one video game franchise that I can safely say hasn't disappointed me at least once yet. When it comes to platformers, this franchise is almost always the one that I come to first. That's not the case with the Nintendo 64, but Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards is still a pretty darn good game. This is one of the few 2D platformers on the entire console, or at least one of the few good ones. Gameplay-wise, it's the Kirby norm, but with a twist. Now, you can not only use one copy ability, but mix 2 together to form a new one, meaning that you can choose from almost 50 copy abilities. This was a very cool concept that I wish they had brought back in Return to Dreamland. The bosses are also some of the best in the series, especially the infamous Zero 2, who is regarded as one of the most disturbing bosses in Nintendo history due to the fact that it bleeds. You heard me right. Eat for everyone, kiddies. It also brought back the Dark Matter as the main villain. Again. Kirby games usually aren't too challenging, but this one is way too easy, even for the franchise's standards. So yeah, overall, this game is far from the best Kirby game, or best game on the Nintendo 64 for that matter, but it's still pretty good. It ain't Shakespeare, but it's still almost as good. And again, I've only read like one Shakespeare play. Why am I talking about this? Kirby 64, number 9 on this list. Speaking of games on this list. Mario Kart 64, yet another game that was on my top 10 local multiplayer games list, which you would have gotten to see if... Oh wait, I already made that joke. There were a lot of racing games that came out back then, but this is easily the best, with Sonic R being a very close second. That was a joke. This game introduced a lot of things that weren't in the first game, like the infamous blue shell. Okay, even the most casual gamers of all time have at least heard of this thing due to Mario Kart Wii success, so I hope that I don't have to explain this to anyone. Plus, if you're watching this, you can probably just look it up. Aside from Mario Kart 7, this game has the best courses in the entire series, at least in my opinion. With my favorite battle course being the Big Donut, and my favorite track being either Bowser's Castle or Toad's Turnpike. Mario Kart 64 has 8 drivers to choose from. Mario, of course, Luigi, Donkey Kong, Peach, Toad, Yoshi, Bowser, and Wario. My favorite is Yoshi, just because he's Yoshi. I'm not kidding, that's the only reason I ever choose him. The game is also so glitched up at times that it actually has my favorite multiplayer in any racing game. Which you would know if, okay, you get the point. So yeah, Mario Kart 64 is a game that I highly recommend for the Virtual Console because it's easier to find, it's cheaper, and you can use the GameCube controller on it if you have one. To sum it all up, this game is easily my second favorite in the series. Ah, Star Fox. A concept so ingenious, so unique, that Nintendo hasn't even dared trying to expand upon it since the glory days of the DS. That's probably their excuse anyways. While the remake may be significantly better, the original Star Fox 64 is a timeless classic that shall always be remembered in the hearts of Nintendo fans. At least, until the remake becomes a classic. Although at first it may just look like a simple 3D space shooter, Star Fox 64 is a wondrous land of action, adventure, and barrel rolls. I can't pronounce that. Sure, the gameplay itself technically isn't anything innovative, but there's something about this game that makes it different from other 3D space shooters. Maybe it's the level design, maybe the boss battles, or maybe it's just that when you pick up a controller, you are injected with a substance that makes you look at the game as something more than just a mindless rehash. Yeah, it's probably the first thing. All of this makes me wonder, Nintendo, I can see why you haven't made a new F-Zero lately, you said it yourself, but why haven't we had a Star Fox game lately? Or a really good one in over 15 years now? Maybe they're just too busy pumping out annual new Super Mario Bros. Games. Or maybe they're just too busy ruining Paper Mario. Or maybe they're currently occupied with the task of finishing up games that should have been here a freaking year ago. Ah, Paper Mario. Although I never played you until around 2010, you will always be remembered as the game that kicked off what could have been the greatest RPG series of all time, until you ruined it with the 3rd and 4th installments. This game is easily my second favorite RPG on any Nintendo console, which I guess isn't saying much because Square Enix has been mostly ignoring us since the PlayStation came out, but it's still a pretty darn good game. The really basic story is that Bowser has kidnapped Princess Peach for the 11th time, and Mario needs to find the 7 star spirits to save her, so it's nothing too extraordinary. However, as it always is when it comes to Mario, the gameplay is where it's at. This is far from your normal RPG for a number of reasons. First of all, you need to time your attacks right for them to completely work. Secondly, you can only bring out one partner at a time. Third, you have certain abilities that require flower points or star points to use. There's a lot more emphasis on exploration and platforming rather than just combat. This game has quite a few flaws, the biggest being that some of the bosses can heal themselves many times, but for the most part they were fixed in the second game. Even after the sequel, there is more than enough room for expansion and improvement, but instead the folks over at Intelligent Systems says, you know what, instead of creating a sequel that is better than 2 already phenomenal video games, let's just troll our fans by turning it into a mediocre platform, and in the 4th game, add stickers. Hopefully this is just a decade-long April Fool's joke, and Paper Mario 5 will actually be good. For some reason, I kinda doubt it. Super Mario 64 is, without a doubt, one of the most revolutionary games of all time. It introduced many things we find mandatory today, such as 3D platforming and a movable camera. Of course, even some of the most influential games end up actually failing the test of time. But definitely not this one. The game consists of 15 worlds, with each world having 7 stars you can collect. Some missions are easier than others, but luckily you don't need all 120 power stars to beat the game. But if you do manage to get them all, then you'll get to meet with Yoshi, and he'll give you up to 100 extra lives. Because you have so much to do with them now that you've 100% the game. The bosses may be subpar in comparison to later installments in the series, but the level design is where this game is king. Heck, I even made an entire countdown about it a while back. While I do consider the Nintendo DS remake superior in almost every way, the original Super Mario 64 is still a classic. It will always be remembered as the game that changed the entire platforming genre forever, and in a good way. If you're just now trying to get into video games, then this is definitely one of the best places to start. It's not too hard, but still provides a pretty good challenge, especially in the last 2 stages. Frickin' Clock World. And here's possibly the most successful game of all time that was never supposed to be successful. Super Smash Bros. Possibly the most famous fighting game of all time, and also one of the easiest to learn. In the first installment to one of Nintendo's best-selling franchises, you have the option to play as one of 8 characters: Mario, Link, Samus, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Pikachu, Fox, and of course Yoshi, who I always use, because he's Yoshi. However, you can also unlock 4 other characters: Captain Falcon, Jigglypuff, Ness, and Luigi. The gameplay itself is fairly simple compared to many other fighting games of the genre, with A moves, B moves, a shield, grab, pause, jump, and that's really it. None of that down, up, A, B, Z, sideways guard, Q, R20 slide, uppercut, sidestep crap. There are a total of 9 stages in the game: Yoshi's Island, Sector Z, Peach Castle, Congo Jungle, Dreamland, Saffron City, Hyrule Castle, and Planet Zebes at the start. The game only has one unlockable stage though, the Mushroom Kingdom, which, to be honest, isn't all that great. The single player mode is great too, but I feel like it is a bit too easy. Even on very hard mode I don't have that much trouble. Like Paper Mario 1, I feel like the sequel, Super Smash Bros. Melee, was overall better, but the original is still a classic that never gets old. Which is obvious due to the fact that the gameplay hasn't changed too much at all since then. I don't know about you guys, but Super Smash Bros. 4 looks very promising, and I'm glad they added Mega Man. Speaking of which, Paper Mario for Super Smash Bros. 4! Yes, I finally get to talk about GoldenEye. I've been playing this game a lot lately, so maybe that's why it's so high on the list, but who cares? Even if it wasn't for the game, I consider GoldenEye to be the most underrated Bond movie of all time. It's not my favorite, of course, but it's definitely up there. The video game, however, is an absolute masterpiece. It is considered by many to be Rare's masterpiece, which is saying quite a bit. Not only is the game revolutionary and fun to play, but it can be pretty freaking hard, especially due to the infamous Aztec Conflict, which is considered to be one of the hardest video game levels of all time due to overpowered enemies, a boss that can withstand up to 15 headshots, and a ladder that you can literally be shot of and killed at the last minute. Heck, I can only beat it on easy. The game contains a total of 20 levels, most of which are so good that they deserve an entire countdown dedicated to them. Hint, hint. They range from infiltrating a facility in Russia to escorting Natalia through a satellite control center in Cuba, and then protecting her from infinitely respawning guards. Yeah, that last one kinda sucks. The multiplayer is really good too, but I don't see why people view it as the best part of the game. Sure, it's really fun, but so is the single player mode. Cheat codes are also very fun to mess around with, especially if you turn all of them on. Overall, not only is this game just extremely enjoyable, but it revolutionized and popularized the first-person shooter genre. For better or for worse. Come on, you knew this was gonna be on here. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is like the video game equivalent of the Lion King. Sure, maybe it gets a bit too much attention, but it's still a really good game. Love it or hate it, the Ocarina of Time has without a doubt influenced the action-adventure genre more than any other. Even fans of the last few games were blown away by this, and there is a lot of hype for it too. I don't want to give too much away, but the story is basically a young boy who lives in the forest, leaves his home to stop the evil King Ganondorf. And what would Ganondorf's diabolical plan be? Yes, I dare you. That's right, world domination. Yeah, the plot starts out kinda cliche, but it gets a bit better, and the story isn't the main focus of it anyway. So, how about the gameplay? Not only is it really good, but it added many new things to the genre, including the targeting system, which allowed you to lock onto enemies during combat. Other than that, it's pretty basic. You have a sword to fight with, a shield to defend yourself with, and various items that you can use to help yourself on your quest, including a crossbow, a hammer, and one of my personal favorites, the hookshot. So far, you might be able to guess that the gameplay is pretty similar to Link to the Past, except in 3D, and you'd be right. Then again, I haven't played too much of that game, but the reason this game is so famous and critically acclaimed is the dungeons, with every single one of them being at least tolerable other than the Water Temple. My favorite is the Fire Temple, but for some reason everyone seems to like the Forest Temple the most. The bosses are also great. Well, except for maybe Morpha, the boss of the Water Temple. Yep, the worst dungeon in the game ended with the worst boss in the game. Thanks, Nintendo. I could go on and on about this game, but it doesn't really help unless you've played it for yourself. And I don't want to spoil anything, but the finale makes every single annoying thing that you've come across during your playthrough all worth it. No wonder people love it so much. What? 2 Zelda games in a row? That's cheating. I'm gonna telling you. Yeah, I know it's kind of unfair, but honestly I feel like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask were easily the best games on the Nintendo 64. But why is Majora number 1? While at first it may seem just like another mindless rehash, this is more than worthy of being a sequel to Ocarina. The first thing you'll notice is that the story is very different. While searching for his lost friend Navi, Link comes across a land named Termina, where the moon is going to crash into Earth in 3 days, and he has to summon the 4 giants to stop it. The story is way more complex than that, but that's the really basic version. So the first major change made to this game is, as you might guess, the time limit. Luckily, you learn a song that allows you to go back in time, but you can only do it at certain moments, or else you have to start some of your work all over again. The other major change is the map, which are scattered around Termina and each has their own unique ability. The most important ones are the transformation masks, which allow you to transform into another type of creature, obviously. There are a few other ones required to beat the game, but there are a lot of others you can get, optionally. And if you collect them all, you'll get the Fierce Deity's mask, which is basically used to make the bosses way easier. As for the dungeons, which are the central focus in past Zelda games, there are only 4 of them, and they're overall not as good as Ocarina of Time. The Woodfall Temple is good, the Snowhead Temple sucks, Great Bay Temple is a bit confusing, but I personally like it. But the Stone Tower Temple is an absolute phenomenon. While there are only 4 major dungeons, actually getting to them is pretty tricky, and it can take a long time if you don't know what you're doing. The bosses are very good too, and personally I think that the finale is even better than the first game. Yep, I said it. The atmosphere of this game provides a stellar, and the soundtrack is utter brilliance. Just a warning though, this game is pretty hard to get into. As it starts off really slowly, some of the puzzles are downright cryptic and it's pretty dang hard. I actually hated this game for a while until I got past all the crap at the beginning. After I completely beat it, I thought it was okay. However, during my second playthrough, where I knew how to solve all the puzzles, beat the bosses, etc., I actually started to appreciate it a lot more. Sure, the fun of figuring them out was lost, but so was all the frustration. I mean, come on, how are you supposed to figure out that you need to blow up a random patch of dirt in the Stone Tower Temple? In my opinion, even considering all of its flaws, I still consider The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask the greatest game on the Nintendo 64. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time.
Did you ever put 2 Zelda games in a row with countdown?
Shut up!